Hi, I'm Meaghan McCormack with the Economic Development Foundation. I just started as the executive director in April.
I think I realized as I was putting this together, this is the first time we've been able to sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah. I know we've been on at least 2 Zoom calls.
Right.
So it's nice to meet you in person.
Likewise.
Yeah.
I kind of got the cliff notes of who you are from Elizabeth and then later from Walter Leger Jr.
Oh, good.
But tell me about
Don't
yourself.
believe them.
Tell me about yourself. Where are you from and where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in upstate New York. It's a small town called Rock Hill. The population is 1,800, so it's much smaller than St. Bernard Parish.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of nestled in the Catskill Mountains. There are tons of lakes. It's a really beautiful place to grow up, but of course I wanted to move to a city when I went to college. So I came to New Orleans, went to Loyola, and then since 2012 I've been in New Orleans.
Right on. So you went to Loyola.
Yeah, I went to Loyola, and then while I was at Loyola, I interned with Goldman Sachs, and then that turned into a full-time job, which then kind of spiraled into where I am now. But it's been a really great journey. I fell in love with the city and now the region, and I think I'm here for good. So
nice. Are you staying here in the St. Bernard area, or are you still in the Orleans Parish, Jefferson Parish area?
Right now I live in Orleans Parish, but I think there's a lot of opportunity in St. Bernard, and I'm not putting that off the table. So.
I know we were just talking about potentially getting Trader Joe's, and
oh gosh,
if
they get a Trader Joe's tomorrow, I'll be here next week. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So tell me more about this the Goldman Sachs program. It's the 1,000. I've got it written down here. 1,000 small business program.
Yep, it's 10,000, but it started out with 1,000 small businesses, and the idea here is that Goldman Sachs obviously is an investment bank, and then after the financial crisis in 2008, Goldman Sachs had a reason to give back to smaller local businesses. So they started this foundation and they started this initiative which gives back to local businesses through an education program. So it kind of walks business owners in given communities throughout the United States and the UK through a 10-week course where they're in class with about 30 other business owners, and they learn everything that it takes to grow and run a business. So that could be managing employees, operations, financial statements, marketing, sales, negotiations, just really everything that you need to know to grow your business. Yeah. So I worked there for about 3.5 years, and it was a really great experience because I got to meet so many business owners. It completely changed the perception I had of what it takes to be a business owner and what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And it gave me a lot of respect for the people in St. Bernard Parish who own businesses and who are basically supporting our economy by hiring people and creating jobs.
Yeah. Tell me about the transition from there to the
World Trade Center.
World Trade Center. Yeah.
Yeah. So the World Trade Center is a very different type of organization. It's obviously a storied organization, one that people all think they know what it does, but before I started at the World Trade Center, I truly didn't know how it operated or what it did. I just always thought of the building in New York City, which is probably what almost everyone thinks of. Right. So, fun fact, the World Trade Center in New Orleans was the first World Trade Center. Now there are over 300 World Trade Centers across the globe, and they're all set up a little bit differently, but for the most part, they're membership organizations, so businesses, mostly international companies, can pay to be members of the organization, and it functions similar. I mean, you're with the chamber. It functions similar to a chamber, so the organization supports those larger international companies that are doing business between, the United States and other countries, helps them with making connections, advocates on their behalf, and really just make sure that our international trade landscape is going smoothly.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
So I still got to work with businesses, but just larger businesses, mostly maritime companies, international companies. So I felt like I was still, doing what I love, which is supporting small businesses and supporting the people that have the guts to do something I could never do, which is take the risk and start their own business. But I got to support them, and that was really cool.
No, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. It sounds like, and I know you were the VP of marketing. Mm-hmm. So what specific was your role within there? Was it more so like I assume it wasn't like social media marketing. It was more so like targeted for like B2B.
Yeah, so my title ended up changing right before I ended up leaving the organization, but ultimately I became the VP of Strategic Partnerships and Investor Relations, which is essentially a long way of saying that I worked with all of our regional partners to make sure that the international companies in Louisiana are supported, that they have the resources they need to be able to grow and the connections they need. So if you're a shipping company and you need access to a logistics company to help support your product getting from A to B, or you're a foods company and you sell sugar, and you need access to a trucking company to help you ship your product throughout the state once it gets from wherever you're mining the sugar to, your customers. Mm-hmm. We kind of help make those connections. We also hosted a lot of programs and events similar to what the chamber has to help educate business owners on, marketing strategies, sales strategies, negotiations, what's going on with all of our free trade agreements, because, as you may or may not know, the current administration is changing a lot of the agreements that we had in place for years with a number of different countries. So just educating business owners on what that means for them.
Yeah, kind of quell the fear from the instability.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know if we can quell any fear, but I can at least tell them, here's what it means for you, and here's what you should do to start mitigating the impact of these changes.
Right.
So
that's perfect. That kind of led you to where you are now in the St. Bernard Economic
Development
Foundation. Yeah, I want to say Defense Fund. That's, I don't know why that popped into my head. Yeah,
that'd be cool, but I have a friend who works for the IDF, the Israeli Defense Fund. But so it all led me to where I am today, which is here in St. Bernard Parish, supporting the businesses that we have here, and also I'm really excited to start working on attracting business development to the parish. So bringing retailers like Trader Joe's to the parish so that people here have, a better quality of life and have access to everything that they need to have, a better life, and to, they don't have to go purchase it in Jefferson Parish or Orleans Parish. Right. That's really important to me.
So for those who may not know, since I only recently found out what the EDF does when I first started this position. Could you tell us more about the function of the EDF? Yeah.
So our mission is threefold. We are here to create and retain jobs in the parish. So of course that means that we're attracting businesses to come here and create jobs. We're also looking to build prosperity in the parish and make sure that the people here have the resources that they need to start a business and to do what they need to have a good life here, whether it means working for a larger company or starting their own business, helping them with that, and then also just improving the quality of life. So attracting retailers here so that you don't have to drive 30 minutes to get a good job or to purchase a shirt.
Right.
So
yeah. So what was one of the things that you had wanted to focus on when you first got this position?
So for me, the most immediate focus was just making sure, of course, I started during a pandemic. Right. But so it was just making sure that the businesses here knew, one, what that meant for them, helping them figure out, one, if they're an essential business and if they can continue operating, or two, if they have to shut down, or if they have to look at other ways to continue operating separate from what they were doing before the pandemic. So that was my most immediate concern, just making sure that the people here know how to operate in this new normal, as everyone likes to say. I was trying not to say it, but so that was my most immediate priority, was just making sure that the business owners here knew what to do and knew how to navigate this. I think after that, it was just kind of working with the parish to come up with a back to business plan, and working with the chamber to make sure that any business knows that they can list their open for business on the chamber's website, making sure that they know that there's a Parish to Go initiative, so if they want to participate in that, just kind of helping publicize things like that.
Yeah. No, and it was great that y'all helped out with that, because I think it did help a lot of the local businesses, keep afloat for a while. Yeah. So did you see any big pivots in business since since your time here?
Yeah. So I wish I had St. Bernard specific stories, but I think the most obvious one is just all the restaurants that now are offering takeout, curbside pickup, to-go orders.
Right.
But some really cool pivots I've seen are, one, as you know, distilleries in New Orleans have all pivoted to start manufacturing, bottling, and selling hand sanitizer, which was really interesting because they had the process in place, but they were doing it for liquor. Now they have the process in place and they're doing it for hand sanitizer. So I think that's a perfect story and a perfect way to showcase how, if you own a process, you can really take that process and do anything. You're not locked into a certain type of product.
Right.
So that was really cool to watch. I also have a friend who owns a Synergy Design Group, and she started, she produces materials for expos. So if you're a company and you have an expo or you attend expos, she produces the tablecloths, the pop-up banners, and all of the materials that you would use if you were at an expo. Mm-hmm. She started offering PPE throughout her through her company, and she also started offering different backgrounds that you could use on Zoom so that you're still marketing your company in the same way that you would if you were at an expo. Mm-hmm. So it's been fun to watch a lot of people think outside the box and figure out that their company doesn't have to shut down just because they can't do what they've always done.
Right.
So it's been inspiring. It's been fun to watch. And for me, it's been really fun to kind of work with companies in St. Bernard Parish and help them rethink what they should be doing.
Right.
So.
No, it was cool. So I have a degree in fashion design, and so that was kind of the world that I came from.
Cool.
And so it was fascinating the way I know when we first started hearing the stories of the shortages of face coverings and things, Hanes came out and started repurposing their underwear
material,
plants and started turning those into easy, cheap masks that they can pump out in bulk and give out. So it's really cool to see how imaginative business owners can be. They're not so locked down in that one process.
Yeah, and even if you're not necessarily doing something different, it just shows people that just because they can't sell right now doesn't mean that they have to stop operating. So I'm working with a seafood company right now, and they just have so much seafood. I mean, they're still fishing every day, but they have nowhere for the seafood to go because restaurants aren't operating at the same level that they've always operated. So restaurants aren't purchasing the same amount of seafood that they would typically purchase around this time of year. Mm-hmm. So just talking with those business owners to let them know, hey, have you considered cold storage options so that you can package and store that seafood and then sell it at a later date?
Right.
Just because you don't have customers purchasing the same amounts that they were purchasing in the past doesn't mean that you have to stop fishing, and it doesn't mean that you have to stop producing your product. It will sell eventually. You just have to think about ways to preserve the product and to make sure that your company is sustainable in the future.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting time to start a new position, but it's been inspiring just to kind of get to hear the stories of, business owners and hear what they're doing to continue operating and keep their people employed during this time.
So what would your goals be? I mean, had this not, gone down right off the bat, what would your short term and then later your long term goals be in this position, as far as like what type of small businesses and large businesses would you have ideally brought in?
Yeah, so I have 3 major goals in my role. The first is going to be workforce development and just creating that strong partnership between the Economic Development Foundation and Nunes Community College.
Right.
Because I think in other parishes, what I've seen is that there is a really strong business attraction mechanism, but then they don't necessarily connect those jobs to the people in the parish.
Right.
And that,
low retention.
Exactly.
Right.
And for me, you can't consider anything a win in economic development if all of those jobs are going to people from outside a community. So I really want to work with Nunes Community College and make sure we strengthen that workforce development pipeline and make sure that they're included every time I'm going on, I'm taking someone out to see a site or talking to someone and meeting with someone about opening a new location here in the parish. That's first. The second, obviously, is going to be, business attraction, making sure that we are attracting the Trader Joe's, the Whole Foods, the TJ Maxx, the Home Goods of the world to come to St. Bernard Parish, and making sure that they see this as a really viable place to do business, and that they know that the people here would love and welcome those additions to their community. So that's second. And then third, I think we're seeing a ton of residential construction. So another focus for me is just going to be this really strategic neighborhood development to make sure that neighborhoods like Old Araby, Buccaneerville North, and some of the other pockets that you're seeing throughout the parish are really developing into these great, viable, walkable communities.
Right.
So
I know we were just last week, I had talked to Jason, and he had mentioned the idea of bringing up turning the Old Araby plant into this kind of like tech hub idea. But the something that had popped up in my head later when I was editing that footage was the infrastructure for like, cable lines and internet and than, the roads that you would need to have that kind of traffic and, residential areas. Do you do any planning in regards to infrastructure?
Yeah, so on that note, we're going to work really closely with the Regional Planning Commission. They have at least 5 PhDs on their staff that I know of that have, much more experience and knowledge in infrastructure planning than I do, and they can really help with feasibility studies, traffic studies. UNO also has a transportation institute with, students in a PhD program who are working on, traffic studies and working on the logistics and transportation aspect of new development in communities. So, I can't sit here and honestly tell you that I have all the experience to make those things happen, but infrastructure is one thing that, I think can be a real advantage for this parish, especially given our access to the railroad, our access to the river, the fact that we're 25 minutes away from a major airport. So it's an advantage for us, but we definitely have a lot to consider when we're bringing in new companies or even building something from within here in the parish.
Yeah, that's the beauty of having a team of people who are like way smarter than you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just get to connect all the dots and make it happen. I don't have to to actually be the person that knows the intricacies of infrastructure and power lines and all that.
So what sorts of you kind of mentioned a few, the proximity to the road and to the airport and to the water. What other benefits do you see for companies that would are already in operation but want to come into the parish area?
Yeah, so the first thing I tell anyone that's interested in doing business here is that there's very little competition. So if we're talking more on retail side of things, we just had a conversation outside of the room just about, where can you get a men's shirt in St. Bernard Parish right now?
Right.
The only option currently is Walmart. So if you want to come here and offer a menswear brand, you have zero competition. If you want to start offering home goods, you're the only other alternative to Walmart. So it's a really prime place for someone who's maybe entering the market or new to market to get out there, because there's little competition and there are people eager to support your business. The other thing I would say is, and this is really unique to St. Bernard Parish, is that there's so much collaboration between parish government, the Economic Development Foundation, the Chamber, and other business associations. So if you want to do business here and you land in St. Bernard Parish, you have this whole family of people that are just going to take you in and hug you and feed you and do everything they can to make sure your business succeeds, including community people in the community.
Yeah.
So it's really unique, and you don't see that in larger communities. You don't see that in other parishes where, you don't get that same level of attention and support and access to resources.
Too much room for people to fall through the cracks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's also, I currently live in Orleans Parish, and I've formerly worked in Orleans Parish. I love Orleans Parish, but at the same time, when you're opening a business there, you call City Hall, and the permitting takes a long time, and it takes a long time to get on the phone with someone, and the processes just aren't streamlined, where, in my experience here in St. Bernard Parish, if you have any kind of issue with zoning, permitting, fees, licensing, anything, if you call our office, I can get someone in parish government on the phone within a minute.
Yeah.
And then even if that person doesn't have the answer, they know the person who has the answer, and they have their cell phone, and they can give it to me, and then I can connect the dots for you, and you'll get your permit. You don't see that in other places. And I think that's a really unique aspect of doing business here, and it makes it a really attractive place to own a business.
Definitely. Sounds like the Big Easy is not the most conducive to
it's
small
not the Big
business,
Easy.
new business growth. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love Orleans Parish. It's a different process there.
You're right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So what trends have you seen since the beginning of the COVID-19?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of really interesting trends. We're seeing, this pandemic has moved a lot of people out of major cities like New Orleans or Atlanta or New York City into suburbs like St. Bernard Parish. So one trend that I'm seeing, which is really exciting, is that all of these people who thought they needed to live in a major hub like Seattle or San Francisco or New York are now doing the same amount of work from places like St. Bernard Parish.
Right.
So, for example, my sister lives in New York City. She is a recruiter for accounting and finance positions, and she's currently able to do all of the work that she needs to do 2 hours from New York City at my parents' house. So just think about what that means for the real estate market. you're going to see less and less people investing in real estate in major cities and more people moving to the suburbs because they can work remotely. They can do all of the work that they need to do at a lesser cost, just 5 miles down the river, for example. Yeah.
It kind of squashed all of those like ideas that, you have to be in a workplace, you have to be in your blazer to do work. Yeah. Now we've got Zoom conference calls and meetings and Slack. Yeah. You can send files back and forth and
yeah, and you're just as productive. I mean, obviously it takes some adjusting, but I think now we've all spent that time, we've invested that time in educating ourselves.
There's proof for it.
Yeah, and there's proof, in the work. So I'm excited about that for a place like St. Bernard Parish because you're going to see a lot of people moving out of the city who thought they needed to have this close proximity to their work, to have this close proximity to, the downtown area, and moving to places like St. Bernard Parish where they can still get everything they need and do their work from home, at a less expensive cost. Right. So that's exciting.
More open area. It's better for the mental health.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can actually have a home office. I mean, my sister could not have a home office in her New York City apartment. It just wouldn't happen unless she wanted to pay an extra $2,000 a month. Yeah. So it's been exciting to kind of watch that trend, and I can't wait to see what it means for a place like St. Bernard. The other trend I'm seeing is that kind of on this note of cities and main streets, we're seeing a lot of stores like Apple shift to having experience stores instead of actual full stores where they hold all of their stock. Mm-hmm. So what an experience store is basically just a very small storefront on a main street where you can kind of touch and see and feel and experience every product, like a MacBook, an iPad, an Apple Pencil, whatever it is. They have one of each in the store. You can experience it, and then if you want to order it, it's not there. So instead of actually walking out with the product, they ship it to you the same day. It probably takes about 2 hours. Mm-hmm. But for a place like St. Bernard, what that means is that all of the warehouses that you see when you drive up and down the highways are going to be holding those Apple products. Right. And they're going to easily be, it takes 20 minutes to get to Orleans Parish. So all of those people from Orleans Parish that are buying Apple products from an Apple store are now going to get it from a truck, and it's going to be shipped out from a place like St. Bernard. And, all the stock is going to be in a place like St. Bernard where the cost per square foot is really inexpensive.
Right. It sounds like an entire reworking of the logistics of, these major corporations.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a trend that I've been talking to a lot of retailers about just to see if there's any interest in moving their stock. And, there's no reason for them to be paying whatever they pay, $25 per square foot for just to house, 100 MacBooks. Right. You can have it in St. Bernard Parish and still get it to that customer the same day, but there's no reason for it to be on that main street in downtown New Orleans, right there, where you're paying an arm and a leg for it. Right. So that's been exciting to watch too, just to see how this pandemic has really changed the logistics landscape and what that's going to look like in the future for us. Yeah,
it sounds like the mentality of business has almost completely shifted. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and even this pickup model too. Like, if say the customer wants that item immediately, okay, they can drive 20 minutes to St. Bernard and get it. Oh yeah. I live in Orleans Parish right now. People think that my job must be so far away. It takes me exactly 18 minutes. So, if you're a customer that needs it immediately and can't wait the 2-hour window, you can drive out yourself and do curbside pickup. From the warehouse. So that's been exciting to watch. Yeah. Our world is changing.
The idea of that sounds so like futuristic and like, 21st century, which I mean, it should have already, but no, it just sounds like a lot of good things have come from a really bad situation.
Yeah, they're definitely. It's changing the way people think and the way people do business, and I think for a lot of people, it's putting into perspective what matters and what's important, and it's making a lot of people reconsider how they want to live their lives. Yeah. I know I will probably never set foot in a grocery store ever again. Just getting my groceries delivered has changed my life, and so that's one thing I don't want to go back to.
You do the delivery like to your house type of thing. Yeah. I know like Walmart and some of our local groups have like we'll shop for you and then bring it out to your car. Or
the curbside pickup. Yeah. But if you do it on Amazon, Whole Foods will deliver it in 2 hours. Right. So. Oh. Yeah, you don't even have to like wait a day or anything.
Oh,
it's been a game changer.
That's super interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mind just went, because that was the biggest thing that's kept me from moving here, is the proximity to Whole Foods, to like Amazon. You know, they kind of control my life. So
I know. I wish they were a better company, but
you know, baby steps. Yeah. All right. So tell me about when we were first setting this up. I had asked you to, some things that you would like to talk about, and you sent me. Let's see, the GNO Pivot, GNO Marketplace, and Work NOLA. What can you tell me about those? So
those are just resources that I want to plug. I know a lot of business owners in St. Bernard Parish listen to this podcast, and I want to let them know that, one, if, say you're not a business owner, say you're just a person in the parish who's listening to the Chamber's podcast and you're looking for a job, or you have a job that you want to post, please do it. Work NOLA is a really great site, and it's not just available for businesses in New Orleans. It's available for businesses in the 10 parish region that GNO Inc., which is Greater New Orleans Inc., serves. So it's been a great site. Oh, really? Yeah. See, there's so many awesome job postings that are posted and listed there. I just don't think enough people know about them. So a lot of people, people in the parish who might be struggling or might have ended up without work during this pandemic, please know people are hiring right now. And if you're, in a position where you're looking, look on Work NOLA. It's better than Indeed. It's specific to the region. Right. And that all of the companies on there are legitimate companies. They're not, multi-level marketing schemes. Right. And, it's a great resource for a lot of people.
Data aggregation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that is the first one. GNO Pivot is also a really interesting website for people to look at if you want to see how companies in Orleans Parish and in the region have pivoted or what they're doing differently. So on that website, you'll see, just to give you an example, the Solomon Group, for example, they produce live events. They're now producing events via Zoom, digital events. Yeah. So it's just a website where you can kind of see the transition that a lot of companies are making. You'll see, NOLA Brewing on there and how they're distilling hand sanitizer. So it's just a great resource for anyone who wants to see what companies are doing now. Yeah. And, you can take a look.
Get some ideas from that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then GNO Marketplace obviously is just it's an online marketplace for anyone who might be looking to purchase PPE, hand sanitizer, or any product at a bulk.
Right on.
Yeah. Just wanted to put those out there for anyone who might be listening or looking for something. If there are any listeners who can't seem to find a product or something that they need, feel free to call the EDF's office.
Great. So another thing that we're all kind of working on, it just kind of hit my desk earlier this week, is the Grow St. Bernard events, the classes. Can you tell our listeners about that?
Yeah, so Grow St. Bernard is a 6-part series that's co-hosted between the Chamber and the Economic Development Foundation. And essentially it's a series where we bring in experts and thought leaders to talk about, it's a range of different topics, but it could be marketing for your business, knowing your audience. It could be a short 2-hour QuickBooks training. It could be a session on how to grow your business and how to think bigger and how to think outside the box because you inherited a family business. So it's just, it's really an exciting 6-part series where you're going to learn from other business owners about how you can grow your own business in the parish.
That's great.
So, yeah, I'm really excited about the lineup we have this year. We have, I've mentioned this a lot, but we have Jacob Landry from Urban South Brewing, who's going to come and talk about how his business has pivoted. We're still confirming some other speakers, but the lineup this year is going to be different from other years, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
So
it should be super beneficial for these business owners locally.
Yeah. Maybe
also opportunity for them to network a bit. I know it's all mostly over Zoom, so it's all, the new normal of networking. But
we'll still be figuring all that out. But yeah, I'm excited about it. I think the very last session will be really helpful to business owners because we're bringing in all of the partners and the resources that they need to know about. So we're bringing in someone from Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses to talk about this program that is zero cost to business owners. You can participate and get that business education for free. It's sponsored and funded by the Goldman Sachs Foundation. So that's one resource. We're bringing in someone from GNO Inc. to talk about everything that GNO Inc. does for the businesses in the region. We're bringing in someone from the Small Business Development Center to talk about what they do and how they can help small business owners here. So these are all resources that don't cost anything, but I think some of the businesses in St. Bernard might not know about. And so that's the final session, and I think that's going to really help kick off the continued conversations between business owners in St. Bernard and, the resource partners that they have.
Yeah.
So
something to definitely take advantage of.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if these people aren't charging you should reach out.
Right.
So, yeah.
Cool. Well, that's really all I've got. Is there anything you would like to share with the St. Bernard or greater New Orleans area?
That is a loaded question. Yeah. I just want to say to everyone in St. Bernard, thank you so much for being so welcoming to me. As you all know, I'm new to the parish, but I'm not new to economic development, and this parish has truly rolled out the red carpet for me with city council meetings, this opportunity to speak on the Chambers podcast, and I'm really looking forward to meeting people at the seafood market tomorrow, and hopefully at more events as we start phase 3 of reopening and start having all of the events that that I was looking forward to before I started. So I'm looking forward to meeting everyone, and just want to keep the momentum going. I know my predecessor did a lot of work in St. Bernard Parish to make sure that the parish was thriving and was seen as a really great place to do business, and I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe that. So that's really all I got, but if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm easily accessible, and I'm eager for social interaction after being at home for 2 months. So,
right. Yeah. What would be the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah. So our main line is 504-277-4009, or you can always email contact@sbedf.org, and I check that. I would give my personal email over the phone, but no one can spell my name. So it's probably easier to just give the contact one. I can be reached at both.
Well, great.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Meaghan.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. Yeah.